Good morning, everyone. Hi, it is Stacy. This is Walking in My Shoes, and we are loving my veteran. Let's see if this catches up this morning. Alrighty, good morning. I think we're cooking like we're supposed to this morning. I'm Stacy. This is Walking in My Shoes, and we are loving my veteran this morning. I'm gonna try to get this thing done. This is the last. Um, Kind of enjoying this one for an early ride on the jet ski this morning. Um, what else do we have? Today is our Wednesday. So we have Wellness Wednesday with Stephanie. She'll be popping in about 6:30 tonight to talk about wellness tips. Good morning, Sunny D. She'll be talking about wellness tips for us, just to take care of our total overall wellness. There is coffee conversation and collaboration today at 10 with our friends at Behind the Service podcast. I'll be packing, so I probably won't be on that one. I hope everybody enjoyed our Tuesday new thing that we did, the You Are Worthy, You Are Loved. We do that every time as well. So we get that in there. That'll be a new weekly feature that we have. So what else is going on? And Thursday night, as usual, we have Let's Talk. Do not miss it. We have way too much fun. So I want to talk about that as well. So I posted this a couple weeks ago about what's the one thing you wish you would have known. One thing you wish you would have known. And one of the things that came up was that we become enablers and boundaries. And we talk about boundaries a lot. And so I want to talk about how the two, good morning, Stephanie. I want to talk about how the two work together. How boundaries and enabling, good morning, Nikia, how boundaries and enabling go hand in hand. So we talked a lot about setting boundaries. Oh, and Sunny's going live on the Vet Only page this afternoon. She's doing a fabulous job with that, by the way, as well. So our veteran there, Sunny, who is also the partner of a veteran. So she's amazing. So she'll be talking from a veteran's perspective. More coffee because this is my thing this morning. I've talked a lot about setting boundaries, and Nakia is big in setting boundaries, and those of us that have done this and are kind of making progress set good boundaries. And this morning I was talking to Michelle, and she says, what happens when you set boundaries and they don't stick to them? So let me back up on a little bit about boundaries. Boundaries are not something that you can put in place. Morning, Jen. Hope you're feeling better. Boundaries are not something that you put in place that dictate to other people their behavior. Boundaries are something you put in place for you. What do you let into your bubble? So you have to understand that we can set these boundaries, and when they do things that, and I'm not just talking about our veteran, from anybody, when they cross our boundaries, we can't help the fact that they want to push past those boundaries. What we can do is stand firm in those boundaries, and we can disengage from a situation that crosses our boundaries. Example, accountability. We have this issue with accountability, and we're like, okay, there are certain things that need to be done. This is what needs to be done. I'm not doing them for you. But if they're not done, this is what happens. So that is a boundary. I'm not doing that for you. That is your boundary. You've got to be accountable for some of your own actions. That is a boundary. Those are boundaries that we set. I am not doing that, because what happens when you do that, you become an enabler. When you go past that boundary that you've set, you become an enabler. So the reality is, you're not setting the boundary that says, I'm not going to fill out this paperwork for you, because that's a fluctuating thing. But your boundary becomes, I'm not going to be an enabler any longer. There are certain things that you can physically and mentally do that you need to do for you, and if you don't do them, you're the one who's going to face the repercussions, not me. And when we take it upon ourselves to do them, we become an enabler. So those two work hand in hand. So many times spouses say, well, I do this for them and I do that for them and I can't, they don't do anything for themselves. Do you? But you let them. Because we don't set firm boundaries that say we're not going to do this. Because it's yours, this is yours, your task, your problem. Yeah, Nakia is great with this. Set 3 basic boundaries. Too many boundaries muddle the water where you or they cannot see the alligator residing in. And that is so true. Because I think we get excited, just like everybody else, when we start talking about boundaries and enabling and communication and things they have to address, that we want it all, because we're just that way. We want instant gratification, and it doesn't work that way. So I always say, pick your top 1 or 2. Nakia sitting there saying 3. Stick with those 1 or 2 till you master those 1 or 2, and then you can start adding other boundaries. But when you don't set firm boundaries for yourself and what you let in your bubble, you become the enabler. That is just it's what happens, and we have to learn not to do that. So an example is quite simple. We know that we make doctors follow through. Good morning, Meredith. Or follow through with one of these things, and then what do? We nag the snot out of them about, don't forget you got a doctor's appointment today. Hey, look, it's like time for you to leave in 20 minutes to go to your doctor's appointment. It's whatever. And what are you doing now? You're enabling them. They need to be accountable for their appointment. They need to be accountable for their stuff. And if they don't go, the bottom line is that's on them. I know this sounds strange, but that's on them, as long as they are physically and mentally able to make that decision and have that ability. Nikia's case, Richard can't physically go to his appointment, so she's got to, come on, Richard, today is doctor's appointment day. We're going to get dressed and we're going to do whatever. But that's because he physically can't. Okay? So you have to understand that when that boundary is set, that this happens. Now, I don't want to get in a situation with Carl, and one of my boundaries is I'm not going to get into it with you. We'll have a discussion. We'll have a disagreement. We might even have an argument, but we're not going to raise our voice at each other. I'm just not doing that anymore. It's a trigger for him. It puts me in a bad space. So my boundary is I am not participating in that destructive behavior. So what do? Now I do my timeout. Just like Nakia and Richard use a stop sign, I use my timeout. I'm like, hey, look, we're done discussing this today. We're done discussing this today, right now. I need some space. You need some space. We're not going to have a conversation where there's this kind of conflict. And that is a boundary that I have set. So we're not crossing that. When I allow that to happen and things spiral, I enable. We can't do that. We cannot do that. See, the only person who controls your boundaries is you. The only person who enforces your boundaries is you. You cannot make boundaries for other people that they have to do this or that or the other. You can't do that because they don't have to follow that. The only thing you can do is allow and control what's in your bubble. And that is a hard thing to understand. It goes back to where we talked in January about rights. We have a right to ask for what we want. We have a right to tell people no. We have a right to say, I can't do that right now. We have a right to say that goes against my moral value. We have a right to say I don't feel like participating in that. But so does everybody else. And that's a hard pill to swallow. We all have those same rights. But your bubble is your space, it's your boundary, it's your protection around you. Don't answer it. I mean, it is that simple. Sunny goes, I say that I'm riding the sunny tray as far as I can, aka I get as much shit done as quickly as possible because there's always a setback after. There is. There is. But you have to, that's the sunny train in Sunny's bubble. And we do this. We do this. And you know, I look at, and I've done this with Carl. I know that Sunny's done this with her guy. I know that Michelle does this with Damon. They have baggage like everybody else. They all have baggage, and we want to help them fix their baggage. And so what do? We step in and we take over in fixing this baggage for them. And when we do, we push them back. We have now encroached their boundary instead of us walking with them through it. And there's a big difference. And when we do all this stuff for them, we enable them to not do things. You know, we hear, well, my veteran won't do this, and my veteran won't do that, and my veteran won't do this. And I'm the one, I think this is the thing I absolutely read the most and hear the most is, I do everything. He does nothing. My veteran does nothing. I do everything. My veteran does nothing. I'm the one who cleans the house, feeds the dogs, does the dishes, takes care of the kids, makes sure the appointments are met, yada, yada, yada. And the list goes on and on and on. And they do nothing. Well, why do they have to? If you've done everything, why do they have to? You haven't set a very firm boundary around yourself, have you? You haven't set a boundary that says, oh, I'm not letting all this in my bubble today, have you? So it is tough when you don't set that boundary, you enable them. When you an enabler. I am 54, almost 55. I told Mom, my mom is sitting there talking to Carl this morning about what we're going to talk about, the topic, and my mom starts laughing. She said, what? And I said, Mom, when you don't set firm boundaries, you become an enabler. And my mom says, taking you 50 years to figure that out? I was like, yep, it did. It's taken me 50 years to figure that out. But I figured it out. And I think that's it. The biggest boundary was simply, my name is Nakia. He may not call me by any other name. The names eliminated were bitch, PS, all that. That boundary alone changed the whole dynamic of the conversation with us together. And that is an amazing boundary, because what it did when she said, that set a tone of respect. That set a tone of respect going forward. When she said, my name is Nakia, and this is how you will refer to me, and this is what I mean by this, and this is what's going to happen. You're not allowed to call me anything else, and I'm not responding to anything else. She set a boundary with just that simple words, my name is Nakia, of respect. That he had to respect her. And she set that boundary. And so then when he calls her by these other names, she doesn't respond. So when you don't have to deal with the disrespect, because that boundary created a level of respect. That boundary created that level of respect. And so I find that that is an amazing comment in that. She demanded a level of respect. That was her boundary. And she didn't have to say my boundary was respect. My boundary was, my name is Nakia, and this is how you're going to refer to me, and I'm not answering anything else. And when he respected her, then you find that so many other things change, because not only does he learn that respect in just her name and not allowed to call her anything else, when you demand a level of respect and you show a level of respect, because we do the opposite also often. You know, you're an asshole, you're a piece of crap, you're whatever. We do the same thing. We are no longer respecting them. I don't have to like him. I have to respect him. You know, and it goes back to, and this has been from president to president to president to president to president. I think the thing that made me, as just something that I've grown up with my whole life, is when they say, that's not my president. I hate to tell you, but whoever is sitting in the office as President of the United States is not you. That's who they are, and that office demands a level of respect, whether the person in it does or not, but the office does. And so when I found that when people say, that's not my president, or it really irritated me when the media called President Trump Mr. Trump. And I'm thinking, but wait, he's still President Trump. Whether you voted for him or not, that's a level of respect. You know, when you watch the things change and kids are actually punished in school for saying yes, ma'am, or no, sir, to their teachers because they want to be on gender whatever terms. Let me tell you something. If my kids didn't say yes, ma'am, or no, sir, I literally would bust their tail. Okay, because you had to show that level of respect. So respect is a massive boundary, and and it encompasses so much more. So it is important that you set boundaries. I know that there's a person in the script, and I'm not going to call that person out, although we talk all the time. She's having a real issue with boundaries because she sets them, and he pushes them back and forth. Well, the problem becomes is she sets her personal boundary, and she lets him cross over, and then it goes on this back and forth when the boundary needs to be, and there's a lot of boundaries that are given. So when the boundary is, you're going to respect me. If that became her new simple boundary, you're going to respect me. That means you're going to call me by my name. You're going to respect my time and my space. You're going to show me respect. And when you don't, I'm disengaging and you're on your own for a little bit. When you don't respect me, I'm going to walk out for a little bit. I'm going to go have me time for a little bit. I didn't say leave the relationship, but I'm not going to be part of this level of disrespect, because you're only going to get respect, one, if you give it, and two, if you demand it. Only way it happens. And you're right, Sarah Kim. He can't do anything if you're doing it for him. And that is so true. So we have to do it. We can encourage, and we should encourage. We can help, and we should help. That's what a partnership is. That's what a relationship is. It is helping each other. But when we take it all on ourselves and we don't set a boundary, we become an enabler, and then we don't understand why the mess is the way it is, because we've enabled that, because we take the path of least resistance, because that's what always happens, because it's easy. It's easy. It's easy to take the path of least resistance. Again, y'all know how I feel about water. Wherever you pour water, that's where it's going to go. It follows the path of least resistance. So whether it's a river or a stream or a lake, it's going to follow the path of least resistance. That's what it does. And that's what we tend to do. People in nature tend to do that. Naturally, follow that path of least resistance, because that's where we are. And that's what we do. So you have to get past that point in order to set these boundaries. Setting boundaries means you're going to stand firm and not keep going down the path of least resistance. And there's all kinds of boundaries. I'm not just talking about boundaries with your veterans. I can remember probably one of the best things I ever had happen, and I did it for a very long time, was when I went to college and my psychology professor said, your phone is an invasion of your privacy. Your phone is an invasion of your privacy. And the key is right. There's a big difference if a veteran won't do something than if he physically can't. And you have to keep that in mind when you set your boundaries. But a lot of times we don't want to argue, and so we walk on those eggshells and we don't set our boundaries. And it's all a spiral effect, right? And so in that situation, we're enabling, because we're allowing them to do whatever, because we're going to take the path of least resistance. But I remember my psychology professor telling all of us, when you're having dinner and your phone rings at home, this is before cell phones. I know some of you don't even understand a world without a cell phone. But if that phone rings, you choose to let that person into your space. You choose to let that person into your space. That is, if you've set the boundary that dinner time is family time, no phones, no interruptions, and the phone rings and you jump up and answer it, you've allowed something to cross into your boundary. And that is something you did. That's not something that anything else did. We allow that. I don't every time it rings. We do this. We can be having Carl and I can be having a conversation. And that's one thing that I've really learned to do is when Carl and I are having a conversation, I turn the ringer to my phone off. Okay? Because it is so easy. I mean, we all have these little notifications that pop. Somebody sends you a snap. I mean, the news pops up. I do Reddit, so my Reddit alert pops up. For crying out loud, my phone tells me how much time I've been on the screen, and all that pops up in the middle of a conversation that Carl and I are having. Right, all of this pops up, and if that situation is the most important that I'm dealing with, then this and all the intrusions, you can turn it off and you can set that boundary and say, hey, when I'm having a discussion with you, I'm not taking any outside intrusions. Okay? What do you do when your boundaries and triggers are still not respected no matter what you do? It's so frustrating. It is frustrating, Michelle. But the boundaries, again, you set. Okay? And I want you, and I'll speak to you because you wrote it out here. I want you to look at your boundaries, come up with, like Nakia said, three boundaries. I know that one of them is for you is sneaking up on you when you're taking a shower. Girlfriend, they make a lock on the door, use it. That's a physical boundary you can put in place. They make a lock on the door, use it. You can do that. If they don't want to engage in something, go on about your day. But don't do for them when you're going on about your day when he can physically do that. If he can physically fix a sandwich, his sandwich is on him, not on you. When there's certain paperwork that has to be dealt with, and I know that and we've talked about this, like the whole birth certificates because we can't get the IDs because COVID happened and whatever. There's some accountability they have to have. It's not something we all do. I found out the information, told them what we needed. We started to get it together, worked on it together. The application he filled out, we mailed it, got it back, it was still wrong. Fixed that again, mailed it, got it back, but we finally got it. But that was on him. And the thing was, is that without the birth certificate, you can't have a driver's license. Well, without a driver's license, you can't drive. So guess what? You're not going to drive our vehicle if you don't have a driver's license. That's a boundary. And that's a firm boundary. If they want to drive their own, on their own insurance, they want to go to jail, that's a side effect that they have to be accountable for. You can only control what goes in your bubble. So if you don't want that in your bubble, okay, we need to do this to get the driver's license or get whatever. We need to do this, and this. And if you can't do that and participate, guess what? You're not going to drive my vehicle. And Nakia says the strength of boundaries must first begin with building a sense of respect within yourself. You hold that front line and don't move it back and forth, adding or subtracting from it. And she's right. The problem is this. When we set boundaries and we set objectives and we're doing well and they push back and we feel so beaten down. right? We feel so exhausted, and we feel like it's this front all the time. And it is hard and it is challenging, but we have to be willing and able and do protect us first. And that goes back to the airplane analogy I use over and over and over again. When you're flying in the airplane, the little mask falls out the thing. In the event that a sudden depressurization of the cabin, a mask will pop out, and you are to pull the string, put it over your face, extend. I can do the whole little thing like the little stewardesses do, and then assist those traveling with you. That's the most basic thing there is. You protect yourself first before you can help anybody else. You take care of yourself first before you can do anything else. It is manipulation at its finest, but when you participate in the manipulation, you're just a tool in the game. So, you know I love you. You know that I love you. I'm answering your question specifically. You know I love you. You go for a ride today. Go look at the river. Go do whatever by yourself. Come up with 3 boundaries. Some of the ones you've already used. 3. Inform them, educate them, and don't back down from them. And it can't be boundaries like you're going to do this, because you can't make people do this. It needs to be, I'm not going to do this for you. I'm not going to do this for you any longer. You're not coming into my space. I need my space when I take a shower. I need my space when I go in the office, or I need my space when I'm sitting outside. Don't come into my bubble at certain times. Make your list and do not allow that to happen anymore. The accountability. And you know, we've talked about the whole driver's license, and it's not one person I'm talking about. This has happened to multiple veterans. You don't get it, you don't get the paperwork, you don't drive. And you know what? I'm not getting up and stopping what I'm doing because you need something, because you can't get your paperwork together to get your driver's license to drive. It's one thing when you can't physically drive. If Richard said to Nakia, I really want something, and he can't physically get in the car, for her to go get it is one thing. For the fact that people don't take the appropriate actions to resolve their situation, that's another totally different ballgame. No, not doing it anymore. And I've said this, and I'm going to tell you this too. When I started setting some of these boundaries, especially the new ones I've worked on, y'all, it was like I'm in a combat zone for 3 or 4 days. But guess what? We got through it. And I'm stronger because of it. And that's what we have to understand about boundaries. It is hard in the beginning. But when you don't set them and you don't stay firm to them, all you do is enable them. And you're not asking people to get their best if all you do is enable them. And then when you enable them, they become manipulative. So today, you're going to take a ride. This is everybody's challenge today. Not one person. Everybody's challenge today. Go somewhere away from the world. I don't care if it's put your earbuds in. Take 10 minutes or more. Find your 3 big boundaries. What are they? 3 boundaries. My first one would be, my name is Nakia line. You're gonna be respected. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to do what I say. But when we communicate, you're gonna respect me. Number 1. That would be my number 1 boundary. Okay? So again, guys, trust and respect are earned with all people. Boundaries also need to be placed with certain people in your life. I had a wall up and it started coming down. Now I have built another wall. Building, yeah, you got to build that bubble. I call it a bubble, a movable fence bubble. Bubble. And it's going to fluctuate some. You need to see what's on the other side. That's why I use the word bubble instead of wall. I want to see what's on the other side of my boundary because I might like something over there. So I might find that it's not detrimental to me. So I might want to move my boundary, my bubble around that. And I might encompass that in my bubble. But there may be things in my bubble that I thought I wanted in my bubble that I don't like in my bubble because they're not bringing out the best of me. So I might need to push that back a little bit. So your bubble's fluid to a degree. Find your top three. Mine would be respect. I mean, that would just be it. If you need physical boundaries, because we've all had triggers, we've all had issues, we've all had situations. If you need physical boundaries, they make a lock on a door for a reason. You want to go take a shower and you need it by yourself, shut the door, lock the door, it is your space. Create a physical boundary sometime. Now we know that when I get frustrated and I walk off and I say to him, I need a minute, he knows now that I need a minute. And that works. But all of this goes back to enabling. Boundaries and enabling. Boundaries and enabling. When we don't set boundaries, we become enablers. When we don't set boundaries, we become enablers. So just think about that. And with that note, we will do some more on this tomorrow because I think it's a topic we just need to go on, and I'll be at home tomorrow and I can kind of do my thing. But I am going to get off here because we're going to go pack and get all of our stuff together. Go make sure my mama's good before we leave. And by the way, for all you people who follow me on a regular basis, my mama loves me because we had Zucker's bagels delivered yesterday. So we're eating Zucker's bagels this morning. Just want to put that out there for all those people who know us, know where we're getting them from. But we're going to go pack. I am going to stop at Walmart on the way home and get an inverter for my laptop so I can try to get some work done that I have not done. All right, y'all have a blessed day. Oh, wait, just went offline. Now I'm here. Y'all have a blessed day. I'm going to get off here. The internet connection is unstable. I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes. We are loving my veteran. Y'all have an incredible day. And I'll see you tomorrow from Georgia.